Good afternoon, everybody. This is Brett Taylor from GoToGroup, along with Doug Bass, our ConnectALL architecture. Today, we're to tell you a little bit about our company briefly, and then tell you quite a bit about our integration product, ConnectALL. We're experts in all flavors of application lifecycle management. We're founded in 2002. We have offices all over the world. Most of us are located in Northern Virginia. We're on GSA schedule for related products and services. We partner with many different ALM manufacturers out there. We've been working with probably every big ALM manufacturer you can think of. We've integrated, migrated, partnered with over the years. Here's a highlight of some of those here on the screen right now. These are some of the ones that we're certified with as well. In addition to this, we've worked with many legacy mainframe systems, billing systems, etc., for a lot of one-off. Okay. Currently we have literally hundreds and hundreds of customers around the world using our integration products. The vast majority of those have been converted to ConnectALL here in the past half year. We have many verticals, no specific vertical, every business angle from banking, finance, web sales systems, governments around the world. And I think from here, the best thing to do is to turn it over to Doug Bass. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands, and we can get back to those a little bit later.
Great, thank you, Brett. This is Doug. I'm the architect of ConnectALL. I've been with GoToGroup coming up on 10 years now. And in addition to a lot of the integrations that we've done, we also do consulting services. So we help our customers install any of the Atlassian products within the Atlassian stack. And because of that experience, we've gotten into a lot of the integrations between the Atlassian products, Quality Center, IBM products, Microsoft products. So as a result, we created this ConnectALL application. The application is intended to solve the problem that we're talking about. For a large enterprise, you might have many work groups worldwide, many different ALM systems like Jira and Quality Center and TFS, for example, and many different data sources. So, of course, that's an issue because all of that data is now siloed. It's all in its separate application. The users are working in their own environment, and they're really not able to collaborate with each other. Maybe currently they walk down the hall or send emails, and you have these long email threads, and it's hard to keep track of, what decisions were reached or what the collaboration was all about, maybe what the problem was to begin with. So this is certainly a large problem in the enterprise these days. And the exercise with ConnectALL, its intent is to break down all those walls. So no matter what products you happen to be using, ConnectALL will aid the collaboration and the synchronization of information between your applications, between your different departments. So whether there are many systems or many processes, many problems, many departments, ConnectALL is the solution to get all of those applications working better together. And whether it's the federation of data, maybe you have Jira onshore and another Jira in India, and you want to synchronize the information between the two locations, or maybe you just want to collaborate. Maybe you want to be able to synchronize comments or attachments between your applications to aid in that collaboration. And of course, from an overall process view, since all the data is going through ConnectALL, you may want to choose a particular system like Jira, for example, or Quality Center, for example, that that is your one true store or your one truth of information across your enterprise. Now that the data is being synchronized, you could have it in one place. You can report on it. You can create dashboards to view that information. So a really useful feature of ConnectALL is be able to now see what's going on across the board. So whether your teams are in sales or operations or developers or executives, and no matter what applications they're using, they could be using for test management, maybe a quality center or doors. CRM, they could be using Salesforce. For ALM, they could be using HP or CPine. Issue tracking, Jira. So all of these applications and then all these different roles are able to see that information truly as knowledge across the enterprise. So some of the features within ConnectALL, the users continue to use the tool that best fits their needs. So if an engineer is in Jira and they're used to using Jira, they can continue to use Jira to maybe track their stories or track the defects they're working on. But now they'll see requirements maybe from doors and test cases from Quality Center. So the user keeps using the tool, but now they have access to more information than they had before. And of course, we can manage multiple tools with high scalability. ConnectALL is based upon the MuleSoft Enterprise Service Bus. That product is available in a standalone application, which is how MuleSoft is and ConnectALL is usually installed. There's also a clustered version. So if your needs require more than a single server can handle, clustering is available. There's also a SaaS version of ConnectALL. So if you only want to use it online and your applications are accessible on the internet, then you could use our SaaS version of ConnectALL. So of course, secure your data all the time with the built-in permissions with ConnectALL. In a little bit, I'll show you how we use our user interface to configure what data is synchronized between the applications. And you can define what users are able to manage those configurations. Maybe one administrator for all of your applications, though a lot of companies have setups or specific configurations at the project level. And the project or the team leads can manage their own configurations. We can also synchronize the data at different intervals. By default, it's every minute, but you can change that to once a day, once a week, once a month, and you can also synchronize the data at any time you want, just on the click of a button. And of course, notification and optimizing the team's response. That's the whole idea behind ConnectALL, is get everyone to communicate, collaborate, work better with each other, and make everything more efficient. Also with ConnectALL, we have a reporting feature so that once ConnectALL synchronizes that data, we can also keep track of the data for each application or down at the project entity and even at the field level. But the basic reporting is certainly at the application levels. You might be interested in the number of requirements that are being synchronized in a particular month or week or day. You might want to look at the last N number of synchronization failures. Maybe a new field or a new permission was entered and it's preventing synchronization. So you can easily see that within the reporting features. Maybe the number of conflicts that have occurred during synchronization, for example. So those are some of the reporting features. The connectors that we currently support, Jira 4, 5, and 6, Quality Center, 10, 11, and 12, TFS, CPine, Doors, 9.4, 9.5, ClearQuest, and Rally, and we're always adding more and more connectors. We're focusing on more connectors this year in the Microsoft and the Rational arenas, and the issue types that you see there that are synchronized are really the issue types that are available within the application. For example, Jira can contain all of those bug stats, etc. So just an example, a simple example of synchronizing data. You might have a Quality Center, and maybe you're currently using Quality Center to store requirements and test cases. And though over in Jira, you could synchronize the Quality Center requirements into Jira sprints and stories. And over in Jira, you could also have the defects. So the amount of data that you want to synchronize and what types of data you want to synchronize between your applications is purely dependent on the configuration that's been entered in the user interface. So it could be as simple as defects in Jira to defects in Quality Center, for example. It could be a more complex process that you want to synchronize data for. You might be using doors for requirements, test cases over in Quality Center, or your sprints or your stories in Jira, and then your defects in Quality Center related to your test cases. And then you could use ConnectALL to synchronize information between doors and Quality Center, Jira and Quality Center, and all combinations there. So that's a more complex example. What we want to represent within that example is whatever your process is. Every enterprise has probably a slightly different version of their software development process. The most complete software development process might be a requirement-driven development approach where requirements are created, they're reviewed, then tests are created for those requirements. Coding is done by test-driven development, and then once the coding is done, it's tested, and all of the information is all linked together, and it's all synchronized. And whether you're using one tool or many tools, or maybe many instances of tool, you might have a quality center, 5 different quality centers, and ConnectALL can synchronize the data between all of those different quality centers. So that's an overview of what ConnectALL is all about. I want to open the conversation up to questions at this time, and then I will go into the product demo. So guys, do we have any questions for us?
Hi, Doug. We have a couple questions. One of them is, when you use the term connector, are you referring to a vendor adapter? What's meant by connector with ConnectALL solution?
So the connectors that we develop for ConnectALL is usually it's a web services application that connects or talks with that remote application. Now, if that remote application uses a web services interface like Jira uses REST, then we'll leverage that web services interface to be able to connect and communicate and transfer information from that application to the other applications.
Another question is, are you able to version configuration changes?
Yes, we can. In a minute, when I'll show you the user interface, you'll see that as we save configuration changes, we'll version them. And that's a really good feature of ConnectALL, because as you save a configuration, maybe you realize you no longer want to synchronize that field, or you want to back up to a previous configuration that worked better. So we do version those configurations as we save them.
Okay, please continue.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. One other question here, Doug.
Okay.
Hold on, Doug. Is there currently a way to validate a configuration before enabling it in production?
Yes, there is. So within the user interface, and this is another feature I'll show you in a minute, when you create your initial configuration, you'll define what application and what fields you want to synchronize. And then you'll probably test it out with one record, maybe one defect in JIRA to one defect in Quality Center, and you'll look at the results of that synchronization, and you might realize, well, I forgot a required field, or a particular value is not valid. So you can look at the user interface and make an appropriate change, and then you just press a button and you can resynchronize that one particular record. So the short answer is yes, you can do that.
Okay, great. And one other question, is ConnectALL replacing the JAM plugin, or will it be in addition to? ConnectALL is going to be replacing JAM. Sunset notices will be coming out in the near future.
Okay, great. If there's no other questions, I'll go on to the demo. Great. So I have several scenarios that I've set up that we can take a look at. The simple scenario that we're going to look at first is I have a project over in JIRA where I'm using to store bugs, and I also have another project over in Quality Center where I also store those defects. So my first scenario here is that I'm going to create a defect over in Quality Center, and then I'm going to synchronize that over to JIRA. The developer will look at the bug and say something like, I need a log file to solve this bug, and then the developer could attach the log file, change the status to close when it's eventually tested, and the JIRA developer would say, good, everything's working fine now. So let's go through a typical scenario, something like that. So the defect might be, as a user, I tried to log on and my password was not accepted. So that would be my bug. I would set the severity of this. Of course, this is probably an urgent bug. And then the description of that is the user ID that tried this was Doug. So we'll submit that to Quality Center. That's now a new bug in Quality Center. And in about a minute, that will be synchronized over to JIRA. One thing to notice that when we synchronize this data over to the other application, we're showing this issue key in JIRA. In other words, we see what this link is between the records and the two applications. When a user is using ConnectALL, it's really transparent that it even exists. In fact, if we weren't exposing this issue key for JIRA and Quality Center, the tester wouldn't even realize that this data was being synchronized over to JIRA. So this is an optional part of the configuration of whether you want to show that issue key or not. Just as an example, when I did this previously, I had created this defect and it was synchronized over to JIRA. I added a little comment reminding the tester to do something, and then eventually it was closed. So that's just an example of what we're doing there. So now this defect I created, it's been created over in JIRA as issue number 70. So let's go over to JIRA and take a look at that. So this is the issue that was created in JIRA from the Quality Center defect. We can see the title of the issue that was entered, and now I'm going to enter a comment on the JIRA side, and I'm going to say, please send me a log file to debug this issue. So again, in about a minute or so, this comment will be synchronized over to Quality Center, and the Quality Center engineer will realize they need to add a log file to help the developer determine what the problem is. Oh, let me look at the right one. Maybe it's been synchronized by now. It hasn't yet, but let me go ahead and I'll say I've communicated the attachment and I've solved the bug. Now I'm going to close the bug. Here's that comment that was sent over. So now I'm going to close the bug, and then that change in status will come back to the developer. Of course, the developer will get a notification the issue has been changed, and then it's now closed, basically saying that the issue has been solved. The bug has been solved. So that's a really simple example of how you would use Jira and Quality Center to synchronize information across applications. The fields that can be synchronized between the applications are really unlimited. Any of the standard fields in the applications can be synchronized. Also, any of the custom fields. So maybe you've created custom fields in Jira or Quality Center, whether they're a checklist or select list. Any of those different data types can be synchronized between applications. And we were talking a minute ago how the Jira ID was displayed over Quality Center. Well, here we're displaying the Quality Center ID over on the Jira side. Again, that's an optional feature. You don't need to show that to the user. When we install ConnectALL, actually we use a small little MySQL database to store these record links between the applications. If you would prefer to use an enterprise level database like Oracle or SQL Server, we also support those. So those are just some examples of the kind of synchronization that you can do, a simple synchronization for a particular issue type. We also support doors. So doors, of course, what you would typically do in doors is you would create requirements, and as you create those requirements, they would probably be synchronized over both Jira and Quality Center. Jira so the engineers can understand what the requirements are, and over to Quality Center so that the Quality Center QC person can create their test cases from the requirements. So we have some examples of how we've done that in the past. So we've already created a few samples of that, and let me create another one. So this is my new requirement, and I'm going to call it Doug's new requirement. We're not so practical here, but that's probably a good example. So I'll enter in all my requirements. I might have, you know, a whole day's worth of requirements that I'll enter, and then I'll save into doors. And then once I do that, then that data will be synchronized over. We currently have this set up so it'll synchronize to both Jira and Quality Center. So if I go back over to Jira and take a look at the new issues that have been created, we don't see that one yet, but we do see the others that I created in Quality Center in Quality Center a minute ago. And it'll also be created over in Quality Center. So those were requirements. So let's look in the requirements module, and we can see the data that's being sent back and forth, and we could now maybe modify the requirement, maybe adding more information, and then that data would be synchronized back to doors. For example, let's see if it's come over to Jira yet. So now I see the doors requirement that came over into Jira. And now that I'm looking at the data, I might say that maybe I want to help the business analyst define the requirements and we might say some of the coding requirements for what this new business feature is. I'm just going to put in something really simple like that. Normally you would have like a template where you could enter in a lot more information into the fields that are going back and forth between the applications. So now in about a minute, that data is going to be synchronized over to Doors. The Doors user would be notified that there's a change to the requirement. So you can see how this synchronization of whether it's something as simple as comments or attachments, or maybe something that's more sophisticated, like entire requirements or use cases could be synchronized between the two applications and really aid in this collaboration across different departments and different roles of users. So that's a basic example, a little bit more complex example of how the data is synchronized between different applications. I also wanted to show you what the user interface looks like that we've developed for ConnectALL. This user interface is used to manage your configurations. In other words, what data is synchronized between the two systems. So our scenario here was that Doors was our central repository or store, and the data that was in Doors was then communicated to Jira and to Quality Center. And if you can visualize, this is a tree with Doors at the root and two leaves at Jira and Quality Center. So whether the data was entered in any of those three applications, it synchronized to the other two platforms. So let's look at just one example of that. I have a configuration here for Doors and Quality Center. So as you can see, as we start to create our what we call an application link, we're linking really at the basic level. You only need to consider two at one time, one application and another application. And we define the URLs and the logins between the two applications. And then the module or the issue types and the projects between the two applications. So here we have, over on the Quality Center side, we have a requirement issue type. We have a project called ConnectALL, and it's using the default domain. And then over on Doors, Doors uses the naming convention of modules and catalogs instead of projects. And then what ticket type was used over in Doors was a requirement. So once we've defined the URL and the data that's going to be synchronized between the two systems, we need to define the conflict management strategy. So a conflict is defined when the same field and the same record in two applications are changed at the same time. So what do you do? How do you handle that scenario? The way ConnectALL handles that scenario is we have different policies or strategies that can be used. The most common policy is master-slave. In other words, when the same field gets changed in two places, one of the systems is the master, and the master is going to win in that conflict. We have some other strategies also. First in, which means whoever made the change first would win in a conflict, or last in, in other words, whoever made the change last would win in the conflict. And we're always adding in new strategies too. ConnectALL is architected in a way that it's easy to add in additional conflict strategies. Also, we define how often the data is synchronized between the applications. By default, we do it once a minute, but if you want, it can do it once an hour, once a day, once a week, or on demand. You can just click a button and it synchronizes the data at that time. So once we've identified the basic information for the synchronization, then of course we define what the fields are that we want to synchronize. Let me click on modify here, and I can give you a better example of what we're doing. But one thing to remember is There's no, you don't have to type in the field names or the data type of the fields. It's all done, all drag and drop. So you just drag and drop the specific fields that you want to synchronize between the two applications. And once you've done that, you've defined what fields you want to synchronize, then you would also create links. So you can create links or mapping or value mappings between the different fields that you're synchronizing. So for example, maybe your status field in Jira and your status field in Quality Center are different, or maybe the priority field or severity field. So you can map those values so that as the data is sent over, it's communicated. Sorry about that. I'm having a little problems with my internet right now, I think. Let me create another browser window and see if it's able to connect. Oh, one thing I forgot to show you is that when you first create your application link, you simply define what applications you want to synchronize. So maybe you're synchronizing a QC11 with a Jira 5 or 6, for example, and then you just need to save it as a name, Doug's Connection. And then you would use that and modify the fields and the URLs, etc. So let me go back to the one that I was looking at, and let's see if the connection is going to work a little bit better this time. Doesn't look like it. Looks like I'm having some network problems there. But in the meantime, let me go off and show you some other parts of ConnectALL. So in addition to the field mapping that I've already shown you, we can also do some reporting and also the dashboarding within the let me try, let's see, I had another window. Let me try that other window.
Hey, Doug, you have time for a couple questions?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Oops.
Does
Well, I typed
ConnectALL
that you
have
were in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does ConnectALL have any impact on the performance of the applications they're syncing to each other?
That's one good thing about ConnectALL is a couple of things. One is it does not run as a plugin within the applications. So for that reason, it doesn't have a direct impact on the application itself. But also when the application wants to, when ConnectALL needs to do a poll of an application to find out what data has changed, what it will do is it will poll since the last update. So it'll do a query. If I did a poll a minute ago, it'll say to Jira, for example, show me what records have been changed within the last minute. So for that reason, it really has a very minimal load on your applications. Really, the only time we've seen a heavy load is when you have huge attachments that you want to synchronize between applications. And that's not so much a load on the applications as it is your network. For that reason, we can configure ConnectALL so that it uses it can, instead of copying the attachment files between applications, it can just display the URL. So in that way, we can really optimize that communication between applications.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I have more questions if you have more time, or we can wait.
Yeah, go ahead. Looks like my VPN may be shut down, so go ahead and ask some questions.
All right. Uh, we have an increasing number of integration requests in their ALM ecosystems queue, and they keep coming. Explanation. Don't we know it? Today's challenge is using ConnectALL's GUI to maintain and manage integrations that have already been configured in production. So here's the question. As an ALM integration administrator becomes a full-time job, is there additional functionality and or GUI enhancements planned to scrolling to help an administrator with daily changes of working in bulk?
That was a long question. I'm not sure I got the gist of all of that. Maybe that's something I can address offline.
Okay. If I may. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brett. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you got the connection back, keep going with the demo.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I guess there's an issue with our VPN, but I was able to connect outside of the VPN, and it looks like I am having a better luck, or maybe not. Yeah, I guess not. Having some network issues here. So go ahead and you have some more questions for me, Brent?
Yeah. The question, basically the comment is that there's more and more configuration. It's becoming a full-time job. Is there any functionality or GUI enhancements planned to make that job easier, like bulk working in bulk, like bulk changes, etc.?
Right. So one of the things that we've addressed is for customers that have lots of application links. In other words, they might have the same field across 100 of application links, or maybe, maybe a better example. I have a new custom field in Jira, and it's being used in hundreds of projects. And I now want to synchronize that new custom field in all those other projects. So one of the things that's in our feature list is be able to support that. I've been able to put in a new custom field and for that change to be pushed out to hundreds of application links instead of project by project. So I think maybe that might be an example of what you're referring to.
More question if you have time.
Sure.
Question is, does ConnectALL have a concept of a group management? Meaning, can I set up groups and assign them to manage ALM integrations?
Yes, absolutely. So within ConnectALL, we have different user IDs that can be defined in the user interface. So for example, you would typically have an admin user ID that would be able to manage all of your connections. And like we said before, we could have a connection that's set up that's specific to a particular project. So for one project, the project lead could manage just their own connections compared to another project and another project lead managing their own personal connections. So that certainly helps on the administration load. The team leads can manage their own synchronizations and their synchronization schedules.
Hey Doug, sorry to interrupt. Can you try the Jira QC11 requirements connection? You have it in your chat window if you want. You'll have to
And
probably
which one was that, Jobin?
you will have to probably log in as the admin. It's in the chat window, Jira 5 QC 11 requirements. Yeah, I think it's probably your network because it's working
Yeah, I
fine
think
for
it's
me.
a network on my side that it's having problems communicating. Well, let's see. That was pretty fast there. Okay, so which one was it?
Go to the next screen, Jira 5 QC 11. Next one. Next one. Sorry, it's an enabled one. Keep going. Yeah, that's the one. The first one which is enabled, QC 11 requirements. That's the one. Yeah.
Great. Okay, let's see if that works better. You're on my laptop, and sometimes it sort of limps along. Okay, yeah. So this is an example of sorry about that. That's what we were trying to do 10 minutes ago, is show you what it looks like when you want to modify an application link. So we've already mapped all these different fields down here, and an example of mapping the values of the fields. I wanted to show you that. For example, here's a status field, for example. So when we're mapping a Jira to Quality Center, and over in Jira, the statuses are like open and in progress. And then over in Quality Center, there are examples like no run and not completed, for example. So that's an example of how you would do the value mapping. For the field mapping, it's really simple. You just select what field you want to synchronize on both sides. You can synchronize the data bidirectionally or in one direction or the other, and just click on the plus, and that adds it to the list of fields here. Then you can map the values if you like by clicking on the plus sign. And when you save that with the check-in comment. So you can see that it's versioned every time you check it in, it has another version. If you want, you can go back and you can load in one of the previous versions, and then make that the active one by saving it. We also have defaults, so that when you're when you create a new application link between two applications, you might, instead of having to know all the fields to type in, it makes it easier to start with defaults. And these are the defaults that we set up with these applications. And every application is a little bit different, of course, doors compared to Quality Center, for example. So that's the field mapping. We discussed the entity mapping. So again, there's no typing in the project name. It's all point and click. We go out to the application and find out what projects there are, and then also what issue types there are. We also have a scheduler configuration. So by default, we can set it to every minute. It can be every hour, daily, whatever schedule you would like to use. And then there's also some advanced properties. For example, if you have your servers are in Europe versus America, you might want to change the date time format when it's parsing the data, so it parses it correctly. The URL for attachments, we were saying we could copy the entire file or maybe just the URL, and we can render that URL in HTML, wiki, or plain. And then the synchronization user. It doesn't have to be an admin. Really, the synchronization user could be someone that can create, browse, and edit issues. We can use the poll query so that instead of all the requirements in the QC11 project are synchronized, we could say only the projects, only the requirements that have a status equal to engineering, for example. So we can use that poll query to limit the data that's communicated between applications. And then last of all, we have a synchronization start time. When we first install ConnectALL, we say when we first install it, it starts synchronizing the data from the time that it was installed to the future. But you might want to say, well, I want to synchronize all my data, or maybe I'll just synchronize all the data within the last year. That's what the synchronization start time is for. And then last of all, of course, the configuration of the URLs, the username and password, and then the selection of the conflict management strategy. So that's really all the details about the mapping of applications and fields. I wanted to talk about the license configuration. The licensing for ConnectALL is not done by user, it's done by server. So for this example, this ConnectALL is licensed for 6 HP servers. So 6 different URLs of Quality Center would be supported with this particular server. And that would be in any domains as long as the URLs are different. 5 different JIRAs and 2 different TFSs. So that's how the licenses are done. The licenses, the cost of the individual licenses vary depending on the connector. So JIRA compared to Quality Center is different, but you can get a price quote from our sales department. Just send an email to sales@gotogroup.com, and we can send you an invoice of a quote of how much your ConnectALL would cost. Also, on top of the licenses, we also have server logs, the database configuration. Like I was saying, maybe MySQL or maybe your Oracle is used to configure that database where that information is stored. As Jobin was saying, we have user management within ConnectALL, so we can have different user IDs, and they can be in different roles, and we can also set them up for different groups. And that's really to allow that flexibility of who can control and maintain configuration for a particular project within ConnectALL. And then we also have some reports, different kinds of reports, so that we can view, for example, records synced over time. We can look at a particular one. Let's see, do we have anything very interesting here? Let's take a look at what this one looks like. So not real exciting, but we can see over time the data that's being synchronized, the number of records that's being synchronized. So sometimes that's useful, especially when you have some really high load periods, and you can see that within the reporting of what's going on with the high load. Last of all, I wanted to show you the dashboard. So the dashboard shows you the records that have been synchronized. You can see either the success records and or the failed records. That might be useful when you're setting up a new configuration and you look at a particular record that was synchronized, and you might say, well, why wasn't it synchronized? You can look at the log to see why it wasn't synchronized. And then if you click on the little blue circular arrow, it'll resynchronize that one record after you maybe made some configuration change. Also, you can see some statistics to see how many records are being synchronized between the applications, between the different application links. And then last of all, you can manage your application links. So instead of synchronizing, maybe you have a link that's synchronized once a week, maybe synchronized on the weekend, and you decide now you want to resynchronize it. So just click on the sync now, and it would go ahead and resynchronize the information.
Okay, Doug.
So that's pretty well it with the, sure.
Okay, so I think we're in the last leg of the webinar. So I just wanted to, we have a last minute, so I wanted to just check on any questions.
There's 1 or 2 very technical questions that we can take offline.
Okay.
Well, this is Doug. I wanted to thank everybody for attending our webinar today. Sorry for the little network issues there, but that's the way it goes sometimes, but we were able to get it back. And I hope that's really good information, some food for thought for you to think about your integration, your synchronization needs in your enterprise, and give you some ideas of what might be useful to get your teams to work together a little bit better, to collaborate a little bit better, and just to make all the data and more information available within your enterprise. You can find more information on our website, www.gotogroup.com, under the products link. You can see ConnectALL. You can see the entire documentation set and ConnectALL, including the install guide and the usage guide. We also offer a 30-day evaluations for ConnectALL. So if you're interested, send us an email or go to the contact us link on our website, and we'd be glad to provide you with the licenses to do a 30-day eval. And of course, if you need any kind of support or assistance, we're always there for you on our support site, jira.gotogroup.com, or just give us a call at our office. So thank you for attending, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon.